Let's start. First of all, let me express my gratitude to your tireless support to Georgia, to my country, to my people, and our European aspiration. We are really grateful. Let's start talking about Georgia's European perspective. Is there any chance that the European Commission's recommendation will be changed by the European Council on June 24th in favor of Georgia, so that we will be given the European candidate status with necessary conditions for fulfillment?
Mm-hmm. That's, of course, a question I don't know the answer to. It is up to the Council. I think there, of course, is a potential that there will be a change to the whole, package of how Council perceives it. Council might be even more strict with potential conditions and requests. But in general, given the position of Commission and Parliament, I do think that the Council will try to fulfill, the wishes of the three countries as much as possible. But of course, we all have to wait to 24th to hear the actual opinion of Council.
I got it. But if Georgia receives only the European perspective, while Ukraine and Moldova will be granted the candidate status, will it not cause the same threat for Georgia as it was after 2008 NATO decision, when Georgia and Ukraine were refused to get a membership action plan? May we exclude that for Russia it might serve as a signal that Georgia has been left in its sphere of influence?
Personally, I do think that the candidate status would be a better option. However, I don't think that if there is just said, we will grant you candidate status, if there are some further reforms, that it leaves Georgia somehow in a sphere of influence of Russia, because we have been very vocal about wanting to include Georgia in the European family as much as possible. We are pretty much promising the candidate status if certain things happen. It's not like we don't want Georgia to be part of it. So, on the contrary. So that's one part. The other part is, of course, that personally I think that there should be renewed more talks about NATO membership, because that's the actual security organization that can help protect Georgia. And I think it is really, really due that these talks should be led again. So.
Yeah, it will be a really great option. But how realistic it seems to you to start negotiation process again about Georgia's membership in NATO during the Ukrainian war, or during Russia's war against Ukraine?
Yes. Actually, I see it very optimistically, because I think that currently every member of NATO sees that NATO really has its sphere of influence and is protecting its member states. And we see what happened to Ukraine when they wanted really to join NATO, and now even Finland wants to join NATO and other countries. And so I don't think there is really any better time than now, when we need to stick together and show Russia and others that we are together and that we will protect each other. So yeah, I do think this is the best time, actually.
Oh. And again, about Georgia's chances. Georgia was given 6 months to complete all the recommendations and reforms stated by the European Commission. What awaits Georgia if Georgia's government does not fulfill those recommendations in December?
Well, of course, that would mean that there would be no candidate status, because conditions are somewhere so that they are fulfilled, and that would be a very sad case and dangerous precedent for Georgia, because then I would be afraid that it might seem like it's being left out of the European sphere of influence, and that Russia has a blanco check on doing whatever it wants. So I really do hope that the Georgian government will fulfill these reforms and conditions, or at least show a will towards fulfilling them, because it's also important. We need to hear some promises, and that we know we can count with them.
But unfortunately, as I know Georgian Dream, and believe me, I know them very well, quite well, they believe that if they fulfill all the requirements set by the European Commission or by the European Parliament, they will lose their power, because the regimes like Georgian Dream may exist only in authoritarian environment. And what is the solution to this dilemma?
Well, that's of course a difficult question, because in some politology remarks it might be called state capture, but I don't think it's as far as that. One thing, of course, are demonstrations and petitions of citizens, that they showcase what they actually want from their government, and the government feels a real pressure to fulfill these demands. Another part, of course, could be elections that would be sooner than the standard elections, based on the pressure of the public or the opposition parties, if they get together and cooperate. But otherwise, democratic systems are quite fragile, especially if they are at their beginning, towards parties that want to abuse the democratic system. So yes, it's a really complicated situation, and I would just urge all Georgian citizens who want to see the reforms and want to see European aspirations to pressure both their government and, of course, the opposition and the parliament in general, that they really put aside any petty or any problems they have with each other and cooperate on this, because this is really bigger than them.
Yeah. You are just talking about the ending of political polarization, but this issue, as well as other topics of the recommendation, among the recommendations of the European Commission, for fulfillment of these issues is necessary condition to end the oligarchization. But as I mentioned above, it seems quite complicated, because I don't think that current Georgian government will agree with the process of the oligarchization. And again, what steps should be made by the Georgian people to achieve these goals, to achieve the real democracy and the fulfillment of all the reforms and recommendations set by the European Commission and other European structures?
Well, apart from what I already said, and which I want to emphasize, which is the public pressure, there can, of course, public can support organizations that are already working on improving the system. I know for sure that there are organizations proposing and expertly working on judicial reform, so public can support them and tell the government, this is how we want it. Of course, secondly, I know you're talking about what the Georgian people can do, but I do think that there is a role for the EU too, and we will be discussing in the upcoming report in our Committee for Foreign Affairs, where we will be discussing Georgia and the general situation in the country. And of course, from the EU currently there are some funds and there are some money flowing into Georgia to, fulfill the reforms and, of course, to do business. And if there is not enough progress, then, of course, we can reshuffle this, or we can support the organizations, not the government, so that they, can improve the system. And there are many small ways in which this can get better. There is no one huge answer or recipe, but yeah, the persistence in working in the small ways is very important.
And the final question about sanctions. Do you believe that the EU is ready to impose sanctions on Bidzina Ivanishvili?
I don't think that it will happen currently in the current situation, because the question of sanctions is really sensitive one for the EU, and EU goes towards it only in the biggest cases that it encounters. But I do think that when we are talking about the oligarchization, we need to talk also about the role of Bidzina Ivanishvili, and if there is a proper discussion, maybe resolution or out, then of course we can talk about what can be done with him in case he influences the country undemocratically, or in case he's connected to foreign sources that, let's say, do not have a democratic influence over the government. But it's really hard to judge now when we don't have these proper discussion and talks. That's why I was in the resolution against putting there the sanctioning, because I don't think that this topic deserves this kind of, suddenness. It is more discussion.
Thank you again for your time, for your friendship and help to Georgian to rise and maintain Georgian and strengthen Georgian democracy. Good luck, and I hope that we will have more chances to have interview with you and meet you in Georgia very soon.
Yes, hopefully. Thank you, and fingers crossed.
Thank you. Thank you again. Good luck. Bye.
Goodbye.